Hey everybody, welcome to the JD Show. I'm your host, JD. I have a very special guest for you today. Sir, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Bruce Cardenas. I'm known as the $1 billion brand builder.
Awesome. Yeah, and you went on the Sean Kelly podcast recently.
Sean's a great guy. Yeah, we had gone back and forth on social media, and then I met him in person at the Limitless event last year at Salt Lake City. And we hit it off, and then he had an opening like the following day, so I flew to Vegas and did the podcast.
Yeah, amazing.
Great studio.
Yeah, no, he has a great setup. He has like many different studios too out there. It's great. I love what he does. His business model it's interesting. I haven't seen that business model until I met him, like within the podcasting industry, and he's made it a really successful business. And he puts very like-minded people together. I noticed, like the group chat that we're in, a lot of phenomenal talent in that group, and we're always communicating, helping each other out.
Yeah, he's a great networker, and yeah, like you said, he's getting some great talent on his show and doing deals and putting things together. It's pretty. I love guys like him, and Dan Fleischman are all about connecting people.
Yeah, connections is probably one of the biggest things in life in general, whether it's business, personal. Like if you don't have connections, you don't really have anything.
Correct.
The old saying, your network is your net worth.
It's in my bio. That's what.
Yes, I read your bio. I'm like, hey, that one right there.
Relationships will carry you the distance.
Yeah, absolutely. You have a really unique history too. Obviously, like with what you do now is incredible. You've built your own. Like, are you a certified billionaire now, or?
Well, I'm an entrepreneur in an entrepreneur's world. I've always been okay being number 2 or 3 in a company or helping people build their brands. I mean, at Quest, obviously, I was an employee, and at Legendary, I'm part of the team, but I have my own brands now, but yeah.
Yeah, and what do some of those brands look like?
Well, we... as I mentioned, everyone knows Quest Nutrition. I went from being really an intern there. I just helped them build relationships. Mm-hmm. So we sold for $1 billion, and we started a company called Legendary Foods, which is fastly growing and on the same trajectory as Quest. I'm involved with a company called Blackwater. BLK Water goes by Perfy. I'm on the board of that. Celine Motors, and an array of other companies that are not big enough to talk about yet. So it's interesting. I don't like talking about companies just in the infant stage. Because who knows where they're going to go,
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you've had a more, I guess you could say, like you used to work for the government, right, in law enforcement, correct? What got you started in that?
So I don't know how far you want to unwind, but I'll just say this: I was a very average CD student in school in a small town of Highbridge, New Jersey, but I always aspired to be a police officer, and. But I had no path to get there. I didn't know really how it happened. I fumbled through school. I was a great athlete, but a horrible student, a daydreamer. And when I got out of high school, about a year out of high school, I was messing around odd jobs here, and I would have been known as a little bit of a cop groupie then. We had a 6-person department, so I would do ride-alongs. They all loved me. And one day I said to the chief, hey, how do I become a cop? I want to become a cop. I'm a year out of high school. I think you had to be maybe 20 at the time, so I had to wait. And he said, listen, here's the deal, Bruce. You're young, you're immature, in his own kind way, kind of let me down easy. But if you go in the Marine Corps, I'll hire you the day you get out. So I grabbed my best friend and said, we're not doing a whole lot in Highbridge, New Jersey. We're kind of, fumbling through life. Let's go in the Marine Corps. And then I discovered there was a huge world out there. Mm-hmm. When you grow up somewhere, you think that what else is there, right? So once I went in the Marine Corps and traveled the world, there was a career day at Camp Pendleton. I was at Camp Pendleton down by San Diego. I was there for a powerlifting meet, and there was a career day, and I saw all these signs of hiring for trucking companies and law enforcement. And I said, wow, I could stay here in California, beautiful people, beautiful weather, and get paid. So yeah, I joined LAPD.
Awesome.
That started a whole career, which was always a passion play. It was always a dream of mine. My uncle was a cop. I had relatives that were police officers, so it kind of just happened.
Okay. Yeah. And so, was it a reserve component in the Marine Corps?
No, I was a full-time Marine.
Okay, so you were active duty.
Yeah, active duty, traveled the world, saw a lot of action, and then I got out. I still was a reserve for probably another 6 years, but once I was a full-time cop, the weekends just kept coming, so it's hard to keep the obligation with reserves. But very proud time, and yeah, the police was a full-time thing until I started the bodyguard business.
Awesome. Yeah, no, the military is a very interesting community, especially the Marine Corps. As a lot of people know that I did 10 years in the Marines myself.
Yeah.
And that used to be my goal in life. I just wanted to be a career Marine, be able to build myself through the ranks and enhance my skills. And obviously now I'm doing different things like you, going the entrepreneurial route. But I feel like the military kind of established that mentality that I needed to be successful in business. How did that affect you?
I tell everyone that. I was kind of, like I said, fumbled through life, not really responsible, didn't have any real habits or routine or accountability per se. But the Marine Corps brought all that. This from day one, and I still to this day remember, my 3 drill instructors, Hummel, Fim, and Thompson, and they instilled, everything that we needed in life, from making your bed, believe it or not, to being accountable for yourself and your fitness and your diet. And I really tell people, no matter where you are in life, if you're not really clear what you're doing, the military is a good option. Doesn't have to be the Marine Corps, it could be any. But think about this. I was not a good student in high school, but when I was in the Marine Corps, one of my bosses who I worked out with said, hey, I go to school 3 times a night on base. I was like, what's that about? How's that work? And almost like a satellite college. I got my college degree while I was in the Marine Corps. Anywhere I went, I would just go attend a night class. And so there's nothing but pluses for the military, I think.
Yeah, no, I'd say I have a very love-hate relationship with my military experience. It really built me to what I am today, but I experienced so much negative BS. Yeah. And I was super happy to be able to leave. But
yeah, most people I talk to that go beyond the normal first initial 5-year or 4-year stint and they go into a second, they either love it or they start to hate it. It's clearly a paramilitary. I mean, everything is about his orders and regulations. And as you grow, it's interesting. In the military, when you're young and impressionable. That's why they tell you, hey, take that mountain. You don't even question it. Right. But as you get older, you're like, wait a second, that doesn't really make sense.
You start realizing, you can see all the BS once you mature.
Yeah, and you start growing, and you have your own thoughts and your own beliefs, and it's like, okay, so I think that's why sometimes young people do amazing in the military, and as you get older, you then have to decide, okay, does this still work for me? Or like an entrepreneur is not going to work in the military.
Right. Yeah, but the military for you is basically a stepping stone, so you could get into
all it was, a stepping stone that helped me get into police work, but still, I mean, it forged who I was as a young man. My shooting skills, I used to shoot really young. I think I started as early as 12 years old in the NRA, just local club, small bore. But I became, as you know, the Marine Corps prides themselves on firearms. And
yes.
I was a #1 graduate in my platoon for shooting. So that, those are little things that the skills I had still carried me,
Right. And then it's so interesting because most people who join the military, join law enforcement, they usually tend to stay in that their entire life. So how did this journey of yours bring you to becoming the entrepreneur you are today?
I guess a lot of it is, so I was happy being a police officer. They didn't make the greatest money at the time. And one of my friends retired from Beverly Hills PD, and he had a security business, bodyguard business. And he took me to lunch one time and said, you have the skills, you're fit, you look good. If you want to start working for me off duty, I didn't even know that was an option. So I worked a couple details for him. And I had gone to school with the State Department when I was in the Marine Corps for a security detail I was on. So I really took a liking to it, and I really figured out I was a servant leader early on. I was all about serving other people. And I did that, and after about a year of that, while I'm managing being a cop full time, I said, well, this is a really interesting business. There's business out there. So I got licensed and took the state test and set my company up and started working, kept working part-time. And because of the relationships I forged, which we talked about before, is one of my good friends had the largest private limousine company in the country. And we became best friends and told him what I was doing. He said, well, let me make some calls for you. Next thing you know, I'm getting a call from Sony Music that one of their A artists is coming out for a music awards, and spent a week with her. And then what I found was the domino effect. Once I was seen working with her, I was able to call another artist manager, and it just started happening. It was artist after artist after artist. And so I left law enforcement full-time to pursue that. Mm-hmm. So while I'm still a reserve with the sheriffs, I made that a career.
Wow.
Yeah. and a good one. You know, I became known as a specialist, all about logistics and planning and learning egress and egress. And while, you know, people think about bodyguard in a lot of different ways, I actually worked as a technical advisor during the movie The Bodyguard with Kevin Costner.
Oh, no way.
It's not as glamorous, obviously, in real life. But really, all of it is really more about behind the scenes and getting people in and out of situations and dealing with stalkers. And you definitely have to be a thinker in the security business.
Absolutely.
It's not just the lughead you see at the door of a club or just a big, overgrown, you know, bodyguard. So.
Right, so you're more along the lines of executive protection.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like people hire me to facilitate movement and keep them out of harm's way. Really, that's the way I sum it up.
Right, and I assume eventually you got into just managing the operations in that business.
Yeah, I built a team. You know, it's interesting to know in security and protection, everyone still has a certain level of service that they expect from what I provided, and when you send someone else and it's not the same, it's hard to scale sometimes to maintain the same. I lost a couple of A clients by sending other people on the road with them, and I learned quickly about social cues and EQ and how etiquette and how to read a room. And I remember I sent someone with an A talent to Mexico, and he got too comfortable. And you know, while I've been invited to dinner 300 times when they walk into a restaurant, thanks ma'am, but I won't, I'll be sitting at the door, I'll sit at the bar. He thought after the third evening, well, they keep asking me, so then he sat at the dinner table with them, and then he got comfortable talking, and the manager called me afterwards and said, he's a nice guy, he goes, but he just got too comfortable. And I asked him, and he said, well, they kept asking me. I said, well, you just had to maintain, it's like the Marine Corps, it's like the Marine at the embassy gate.
Yeah.
You're never leaving that post, even if someone says, hey, come on, have a meal with me. But not everyone registers that. They think, well, they're nice to me, so they must really. It's a courtesy. You know what I mean? It's just like you know, you don't want to leave.
You're almost expected to decline.
You have to decline, and it's one thing I tell my friends will say, because I still have a couple clients I maintain. I personally work with them, and my friends will say, "What do you guys talk about?" Because they know some of my clients. They'll say, "What do you talk about?" I said, "Don't talk about anything." Well, wait, how are you with someone day in and day out, or you'll drive to Santa Barbara for 2 hours with them in the same car? I said, that's not the relationship I have. So if I get into a vehicle with one of my clients and they ask me, how's it going, Bruce? Fine, ma'am. No one wants to hear you say, well, actually my kid's homesick, and you know what I mean?
Right.
I call it it's a daily salutation, a greeting, which they expect nothing in return other than great. If you ask more than that, then that causes them to have a thought process of, oh, geez, I wish I didn't ask. You follow?
Yeah, absolutely.
But a lot of people don't get that. They think they have to. It's their opening to talk.
Right. It's a lot of people just aren't able to pick up on social cues.
Yeah.
And that's where they fall flat on their face, especially in business too. Like
business
you can't
too.
read a room, you can't pick up on the vibes that certain people are giving off. You're gonna screw yourself over many times. And oh man, I've met some people in my life that just could not pick up on social cues. Like they'll try to like take over the room and talk, and everybody is annoyed. Everyone's looking at each other like, is this guy gonna like
For real?
stop talking?
Yeah.
But that dude who's blabbing his mouth away, thinking that he has everyone's attention, is like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get so many deals out of this.
Right.
He's ruining everything for himself.
And we would work. I worked the line a lot. Like I'll get, you know, Mariah Carey would do a CD release. They used to have the big parties where, you know, you just get in line and sign CDs and albums, and I would brief 10 at a time as I was getting them all lined up. I'd say, hey, by the way, look, quick, have your camera ready, have your girlfriend ready to take a picture. There's no chatting. It's just take a picture. Thank you very much. And there was always every third person like, oh my God, I'm a big fan. They start crying, and oh, my mom loves you, and can I do a FaceTime with you and call her? And they never got it. That was like, listen, all that's doing is delaying everyone else, and also, God bless it, the celebrity doesn't have time to process this. They're just there to be nice and sign a album, whatever, and people just don't always get that. They feel like, I'm going to get my 10 minutes with this talent, but it's not going to change anything, you know?
Right.
So.
Yeah, so military, law enforcement, private security, executive protection.
Yeah.
How does that translate into you working for Quest?
It's, once again, I'm going to go back to relationships and relationship capital. I pride myself on making more deposits than withdraw in life. I don't think there's anyone that ever in my circle could ever say I've asked for anything. I usually just give, and if things happen, they happen, and people want to do things in return. But serendipitously, I was in the gym one day working out, and the founder of Quest, look her up, she goes by Quest Creator, Shannon Penna, was working out. You know, you have those gym acquaintances, you see the same face every day. Hey, what's up, man? And one day she said, hey, Bruce, you know, I got this protein bar. I've been making these in my kitchen. I'd love to give you a couple. And then we had 2 flavors at the time. They were a brand new company, maybe 6 months old.
What year was this?
2011-ish.
Oh, wow, okay. So she was literally making them in her kitchen.
Literally the first 14 flavors she produced. Originally they were in her kitchen. She was originally just making, let's call them just protein snacks. She was making them and selling them at her. She was a trainer, so she would sell them at her boot camps with the ladies, and that was it. Her husband was like, wow, these are really good. They were in the tech space. They were in a software business, security software. And he took the protein bars, snacks, whatever you want to call them, to work, and tech guys liked them. And if you know anything about tech guys, they're the ones eating Doritos and drinking Red Bull and Red Vines. They have no concept of nutrition. And they wanted more of them, and he had a light bulb moment where he's like, this might be a business model. So I didn't know them then, but she gave me these 2 bars. I think I saw her like a week later and said, hey, those bars were really good. They weren't chalky. They were really good. I'd grown up on protein bars that were okay.
Those protein bars suck.
Yeah, exactly. And they had just a taste, texture. And I said, hey, by chance, in a couple weeks, one of my good friends is hosting a celebrity golf tournament. I'm doing the security at it, but if you have some extra bars, maybe I can get them in some people's hands. I have no idea why I said that, because it's not my thing. It's not my business. But they were super cool people. And she said, oh, matter of fact, let me get you a couple boxes. I brought them to my friend who's doing the publicity. And if you remember 2011, there was no social media. Facebook just started, primarily for business. And I gave them to Cheryl, and I said, hey, I got these bars. If you want to, maybe give them out. She goes, I'll do one better. There's some people here that I'll do some videos. There was bloggers. What were they called? I don't remember bloggers, but there were people that shooting content, but it wasn't, for social media yet. And I got some people on camera to try it. Mario Lopez was there, some different names, and got that and sent them the pictures. And like, wow, how do you know these people? Like, what world are you living in? And I said, well, I do security for these people. And then simultaneously, I'm doing the security on a set of Extra, because it was at a public location. So I was there every day. I got bars in Mario Lopez's hand, and I remember one day he was giving them out on camera. Hey, our friend Bruce came by and dropped off these Quest bars. And it kind of just happened. I would visit their office occasionally, and after about 9 months, Ron and I went to lunch, and he said, listen, we're stealing from you. You're doing all this cool stuff. You have not asked for anything. I said, well, I get protein bars from you guys. And it was almost, I think he even laughed in my face, like, Bruce, like, let's be serious. You're getting free protein bars. That's great. But I didn't have any expectations. He said, listen, we're going to put you on the payroll starting Friday. Do what you want. Give it to charity, but keep doing what you do. Do your day job. And it was a modest amount. It was probably your average American salary, but something kicked in when I got that. When I started getting paid, I was like, shit, now I really got to start stepping up my game. Because I grew up with a real work ethic. My dad was a hardworking middle-class guy and worked 7 days a week sometimes. And once I started getting paid, I thought, okay, how do I do this? I have this great office on the west side of LA, beautiful, near the ocean, and my security business is doing really well. And then I would quickly want to leave there by about noon and then go hang out at Quest. And I went there like 2 or 3 times a week, and then I started hanging out more and more. And Quest literally, I never told them this because it would probably seem a little weird, but it kind of became my why. Like, people would be writing us saying, hey, I lost 20 pounds over the last couple months, and this is my go-to snack. And I started seeing the results of the product. And it just kind of, I fell in love with what they were doing. And they were cool people. It was a very mellow vibe. There was no promise of any future. The office was in the hood. When I say it was in the hood, it was like south of Compton in LA. So in this little industrial strip mall, graffiti, and like there was, when I pulled up, I literally thought to myself, oh, they probably won't even be in business in 6 months. Like, that's how small of an operation it was. But it just became a love fest, really. That's the way I describe it.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
And how old were you when you made your first million?
Well, to be honest with you, I made some millions when I had the bodyguard business. In full transparency, I went through a divorce and quickly became a thousandaire.
Yeah, I've been divorced twice, and by the way, time it reset me.
But it's all good. It's interesting. I will say this for anyone that sometimes gets, because I have friends of mine that will not let go of that anger of divorce or bad things that happen. It was a setback for a minute. I just had to reset, because one thing I figured out with money is all it does is facilitate things in life.
Right.
It does no more than that. And as I got to work around very wealthy people, very billionaires even, they have the same struggles, the same depression, the same anxiety, the same challenges. It's just different levels and different scales. So I quickly concluded that, listen, I think there's even a study somewhere, I'm not making this up, there was a study that concluded that if there's a threshold mentally, if you make about $70,000 a year, that for 95% of America, that covers your mortgage, your car payment, most of your bills, right? And there's a certain buffer. And I really figured out, I don't need a lot of money. I mean, anything above this is great. So I just had to reverse my thinking that I'm cool, I'm not poor, and I'm gonna always be okay. So yeah, so I had made some millions when I was a cop, and I'm making a couple $1 million a year on the side with security. I was like, holy, that's kind of crazy. So then I lost a lot of that, and then Quest, it's public, but we sold for $1 billion cash, which is what they call a unicorn. A lot of companies, not a lot. I think there's only been 1,200 billion-dollar companies in the world that have reached $1 billion. Most of those are not just clean sales. They have almost stocks and options and different variations. This was strictly a cash deal. So now, we sold that, and then we started a company called Legendary Foods, which are healthy Pop-Tarts and pastries. Better macros than a Quest bar, and better than an MRE.
Oh yeah, so, MREs. Yeah. I'd go on forever about this.
So and we're on track. I mean, I will say this, as we're sitting on your show, probably in 36 to 48 months, it'll have $1 billion valuation.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
So it's kind of just became my thing, and it's not so much I know a lot. I wouldn't say. When I started hanging out with the Quest guys, I wasn't the most qualified. I didn't have a degree in nutrition or science. I just was passionate about what they did, what the brand did, and kind of the same thing with Legendary. I'm just passionate about what we do, changing people's lives, getting product in people's hands, and that's it. I like
seize the opportunity.
Yeah, and I like seeing the results of our work. It's like I've always said I'm glad we're not selling canned corn. It's something that people enjoy, and I love seeing the reaction to people and how it changes lives.
Right.
Yeah, and that's how I've got to meet a lot of people now. Even though I have the security business, it's just opened up a whole nother floodgate of opportunities and relationships. Using food as also a gateway to relationships.
Oh yeah, food is amazing to bring people together.
Yeah, and I've literally called millionaires that have these masterminds or doing a big speaking engagement. I say, hey, can I come? And they're like, oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. So I'll bring the food for all the talent, and yeah. Kind of works out.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So a big topic that's often discussed on this show is male-female dynamics and the modern dating space, as well as like how the legal system impacts males typically more so than women. You yourself made millions of dollars in your industry. All it took was a divorce to bring you back down to thousandaire status. I think a lot of the viewers that see this channel, they themselves have gone through some type of issue with a relationship, a divorce, a bad breakup that has set them back in life. What would be some advice that you can give to help a man recover from a divorce or from a breakup and be able to succeed again and make all that money, keep building themselves in life?
You really have to have a never give up attitude and really realize it's just a momentary period in your time. We're only here for a short period of time on this earth, right? And I myself, even in the past, dwelled on problems. I'd have a breakup and I'd be like heartbroken and I don't want to do anything and mope around. And all of a sudden I said, well, that makes no sense. I mean, great. I know we have that chemical reaction, right? The whole love thing and how we feel. But if something's not meant to be, it doesn't work out. You have to recover as quickly as possible and realize there's always going to be someone else out there for you, right? But don't let it derail you to the point where you're having a crisis or your business or you're losing employees because you're not paying attention. It's easier said than done. I get it because I've been there. But everything is a momentary setback. I look at it that way. Divorce, death, even someone dies. I look at things just a little different, and maybe it's not cold and calculated. It's not like the Marine Corps made me jaded or anything else or being a cop. It was more I figured this out. Like anyone I know that died, and even if I knew them like leading up to it, right? My dad died of cancer, and we had great conversations leading up. I don't think his expectation was, hey, when I die, please mope around for a year and be depressed. Let's get back out there and let's celebrate life. I feel the same way with any tragedy that happens. You got to take it as a learning lesson and say, okay, I'm going to be a better person. I'm going to still find someone to love me. I'm going to still find someone to support me, and I'm going to keep my business going because I have employees that count on me. That's it's kind of almost selfish when you kind of go into a dark place.
Right, you almost have to be selfish too.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I did. Like my second divorce is actually what helped me become extremely successful. Like my old life of being a career military guy, like most people would say, oh yeah, he's very successful, makes good money, he's advanced in the military, he's a reconnaissance Marine, very prestigious title, right? But in the long run of things, like, no, that was easily damaged by a divorce. And it took me being in my lowest possible place to really find that energy that was needed to pull myself out and be able to do great things in this world. And a lot of guys out there, especially today, don't think they have it in them. So stories like yourself where you've been very successful and have gotten set back in a divorce, it only inspires people to be able to continue pushing forward, never quit, have that mentality. And adapting that mentality, not very many people can do it.
Yeah, and I don't know why. I mean, I guess because of the lessons I've learned, I figured out. But I mean, I was at an all-time low. I had gone through this divorce. I was living in my friend's guest house. You know, he was wealthy, so the guest house was pretty decent. But I'm like, how have I gone from this? I had this 5,000 square foot house when I was married. I'm now living in someone's guest quarters. But at the end of the day, I kept going back to, okay, well, I have three meals. You know, I have everything covered in my life, so I'm not that down and out. I can always make money. I have two hands. I can think, and that's how you have to look at it. Whether you're a millionaire, billionaire, whatever, it is all you can always recover.
Absolutely, and clearly you did it.
Yeah, right. You have no choice.
So, final thing for you, brother. In today's atmosphere, like with social media, the way that the economy's going, what is a good piece of advice you would give the everyday person to be able to scale a business?
So listen, the economy is, you said a good word, the way the economy is going, I think since I was in high school, the economy is always going some way that is not in favor of everyone's always, even when I think we were at our peak, well, you know, we're just on the brink of a depression or recession. I just have the mindset, listen, even if there's a dip, life goes on. We're going to keep doing well. We're going to keep growing. We're going to keep, doing great things in life, and that's the mindset I have. So even when we launched Quest, by the way, I think we looked online, figured this out. But there were 600 nutrition companies launched that same year. Most of them failed. But my point is 600 other people said, hey, I'm going to dive into this. I'm going to try and make it work. So no matter how the world's going, no matter how flooded the industry is, I think you said before we got on camera, well, the security business really, like, it's packed, right? It's hard to break into it. There's always room. There's always room for another protein bar. There's always another room for an executive protection specialist. There's always another room for someone that's going to sell stuff online. I think what we do is we limit our beliefs and think, I looked at social media and there's all these guys driving Ferraris and selling real estate. I can't break into that market. There's all these event planners. How do I do it? Just start. You know, now more than ever, I think you could make a website for free.
You can. There's AI build
a website, pop something up, say I want to sell used clothing. By the way, one of my friends became literally a multi-millionaire selling used clothes, jeans and stuff, old faded shit. And
I know a guy in San Clemente, not too far away from here, who did the same thing.
So I tell people, if you have an idea, I talk to women, I have this healthy cookie. Make it in your kitchen, get in your girlfriend's hands, bring it to the local gym, get people to try it, like we did at Quest. And if it's something you think could be scalable, then start making them in a commissary at night. Get art made on Fiverr or any of these free, you pay like $50 to have someone make a package and a label. Start selling it in a small website, and next thing you know, you're in Target and Walmart. But I think the biggest challenge people have is taking the first step. Me included. I have all this self-doubt, and over the last 2-3 years, I keep being surrounded by all these influential people and speaking and publishers, and I finally decided, I can't wait anymore. Someone called me out yesterday. Someone I saw 2 years ago. I said I was going to write this book, and she said, "How's that book going?" And she goes, "No, we're not having another conversation. You're going to come visit me. We're going to shoot in my studio." And now it's in the works. Mm-hmm. But I drug my feet because no one wants to read my book. I had self-doubt. Everyone has self-doubt. But you have to
especially in the beginning,
in
too.
the beginning, it's always the beginning. It's not going to see, but you know what? The minute you take a step off the curb and you see your first $1,000, oh my God, wait, now it's 2,000. Well, my gosh, now people want me on their podcast, and now I'm selling cookies in these stores or whatever your thing is. Anyone can do anything they want, I promise you. Fitness trainers, anything, real estate. I have friends of mine in real estate. I pretty much wear the brands I work with. I wear them. You know, I'm a big fan. My truck is wrapped in my brand, right? I tell people there's some great people in my gym and they do real estate and do mortgage. I said, well, I said, all I see is Lululemon. Why do you have a cool shirt on that says, you know, want to buy a house? Ask me how. I mean, it could be something cute, right? But you need to get out there. You need to let people know who you are. You need to be working on LinkedIn. There's so many avenues now. This is the best time in the world to build a business, by far, with all the avenues and all the AI and all the cool stuff. You can sit at your desk and just create an empire.
Yeah, many people have done it too.
It'll happen day and day. Then I'm almost envious. I mean, I see, and they're real. There's 18, 19-year-olds that are multimillionaires. Creating businesses online. I'm like, wow.
Just from their cell phone.
Cell phone, yeah. Yeah, my good friend Dan Fleischman says it best. Every time he's on stage, he says, you don't need to hire someone to follow you around a camera. Here, you have the best camera in the world, your iPhone. Shoot your own videos, be authentic, and really that's all you just sort of start. So
that's amazing.
That's my words.
Well, where can the audience find you if they want to look you up?
I guess Instagram, Bruce E. Cardenas, and then I have a website, just brucecardenas.com.
Okay.
Yeah,
awesome.
simple.
Well, Bruce, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was a pleasure. And we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Well, that's it, guys. If you liked what you saw, make sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment below. Let me know. Would you like him to come back on? If so, we'll make it happen. If there's another guest in particular you'd like me to reach out to, drop their name and I'll see what I can do. Thanks, guys. That's all.